You are standing near the rain-streaked window of a crowded gallery opening in the Marais district of Paris, holding a glass of wine that has grown warm in your hand. Around you, the air is thick with the hum of polite laughter and the rhythmic clinking of glasses, a symphony of social friction that feels less like a celebration and more like a siege. Someone you barely know approaches you, their smile practiced and bright, and asks the question that makes your stomach tighten. "So, what have you been up to lately?" You smile back, a muscular contraction that feels like lifting a heavy weight, and you recite the script. You talk about work, you mention the weather, you nod at the appropriate intervals. But inside, behind the porcelain mask of your face, a warning light is flashing. You feel a physical draining, a sensation as if someone has pulled a plug at the base of your spine, and your vital essence is leaking out onto the parquet floor. This is not just boredom, it is not mere shyness. It is a profound cellular exhaustion known as surface fatigue, and it is the specific affliction of a mind built for the depths, forced to survive in the shallows. You have likely spent your life wondering why you are like this. You wonder why a 2-hour dinner party leaves you more depleted than a week of intense problem-solving. You wonder why you feel a flash of irrational anger when a conversation loops in circles around safe, inconsequential topics. You criticize yourself for being difficult or antisocial, looking at the ease with which others bat these conversational tennis balls back and forth, appearing energized by the very thing that is killing you. But to understand this fatigue, we must stop looking at your personality as a defect and start looking at the evolutionary and biological architecture of your brain. You are not broken, you are simply an organism designed for a different kind of environment, suffering from a mismatch with the modern social ecosystem. Let us descend into the biology of why small talk feels physically painful to you. It begins with the concept of cognitive load and the distinct way your brain processes information. In the field of neuroscience, there is a distinction between automatic processing and controlled processing. For the neurotypical extrovert, small talk is automatic. It requires very little caloric energy. It is a background process, like breathing. But for you, conversation is a high-stakes, controlled process. You possess what psychologists call high associative thinking. When someone mentions the rain, your brain does not just register meteorological data. You immediately think of the climate patterns shifting, the mood of the city, a line of poetry you read about storms, and the structural integrity of the building you are standing in. Your mind is a vast, interconnected web, and every stimulus pulls on 1,000 threads. To engage in small talk, you have to actively suppress all of this. You have to perform a massive act of neural inhibition. You must take the roaring, complex symphony of your thoughts and crush it down into a single, flat note of, "Yes, it is quite wet out there." This inhibition happens in the prefrontal cortex, the executive center of the brain, which consumes a tremendous amount of glucose. Every time you nod politely instead of asking the deep, existential question that is actually on your mind, you are burning fuel. You are essentially driving a Formula One car in a school zone, constantly riding the brakes, and the heat generated by that friction is what you experience as exhaustion. Furthermore, we must consider the evolutionary purpose of conversation. For our ancestors, communication was a tool for survival, used to negotiate complex hierarchies, share vital information, and build deep tribal bonds. In the Pleistocene era, small talk was a luxury the tribe could rarely afford. Connection was meant to be a signal of trust and safety. Your brain is wired for what evolutionary biologists might call honest signaling. You crave the raw data of another human soul because to your ancient brain, knowing someone's true emotional state is a survival mechanism. When you are trapped in a cycle of pleasantries, your brain registers a signal error. It perceives the other person as masking, as hiding their true intent. This triggers a low-level anxiety response. Your amygdala activates, searching for the threat behind the smile. You are exhausting yourself not just by talking, but by unconsciously scanning for the truth that is being withheld. You are starving for nourishment while being fed styrofoam. This biological reality is exacerbated by the fact that you likely have a lower threshold for dopamine stimulation, but a higher sensitivity to acetylcholine, the neurotransmitter associated with deep focus and internal reflection. The modern cocktail party is a dopamine ecosystem, fast hits, quick rewards, rapid shifting of attention. It is a game of ping pong. Your brain, however, is designed for the deep dive. You are a creature of the deep ocean, evolved to withstand immense pressure and navigate the darkness with bioluminescent insight. When you are forced to float on the surface, bobbing in the waves of "How about those sports?" and "What do you do for a living?" you are essentially depressurizing. You are a whale trying to live in a goldfish bowl. The environment does not provide the density you need to feel buoyant, so you sink under the weight of your own gravity. But why does this guilt feel so heavy? Why do you feel like a traitor to the social contract when you retreat into the corner? To answer this, we must turn our gaze outward, to the harsh neon glare of Western society and its obsession with the frictionless self. We live in a culture that has industrialized human connection. Since the mid-20th century, with the rise of corporate culture and the service economy, we have seen the weaponization of agreeability. We are taught that the ideal human being is an extroverted, low-friction node in a network, someone who can slot into any team, laugh at any joke, and never make things awkward by bringing up heavy subjects like death, philosophy, or the terrifying nature of time. This is the tyranny of the good sport. In the modern marketplace, your personality is treated as a user interface. It is expected to be clean, intuitive, and responsive. Small talk is the grease that keeps the machinery of capitalism moving. It allows us to transact with people we do not care about. It allows us to network without vulnerability. When you refuse to participate in this surface-level dance, you are not just being quiet, you are committing an act of economic rebellion. You are refusing to treat yourself and others as commodities. The question, "What do you do?" is a price tag question. It asks, "Where do you fit in the hierarchy, and how much respect can I afford to give you?" When you find this question repulsive, it is because your soul rejects the commodification of your identity. You know that you are not your job title. You are the books you read, the grief you carry, the dreams that wake you up at 4 a.m., and the specific way you view the horizon. This leads us to the grotesque theater of networking and the LinkedIn identity trap. We have created a digital panopticon where we must constantly broadcast a sanitized, enthusiastic version of ourselves. We are told to build our brand, which is another way of saying we must flatten our complex, jagged humanity into a smooth, digestible product. This constant performance creates a state of hypervigilance. You are always on stage. Even at a casual dinner, you feel the pressure to be on, to be witty, to be successful. This is the hustle culture of the soul, the belief that every interaction must have an ROI, return on investment. You are exhausted because you are working a second shift. You are performing the emotional labor of a diplomat in the living room of a friend. You are maintaining the facade of the easygoing person, when, in reality, you are a person of intense, specific, and demanding depth. Consider for a moment the metaphor of the archipelago. Most of society operates like a continent, vast, connected by land, easy to traverse. Everyone walks on the same ground, but you, and those like you, are islands. You are an archipelago of intense, solitary peaks rising from a deep sea. The bridges between you and others are not built of asphalt. They are built of vulnerability. Small talk is a bridge made of paper. It cannot hold your weight. You try to walk across it, and it tears, plunging you into the water. You need bridges made of steel. Conversations about fear, about art, about the origins of the universe. When you cannot find these bridges, you feel stranded. But the isolation you feel is not an absence of people. It is an absence of resonance. You can be drowning in a sea of faces and still die of thirst because none of the water is fresh. So, how do we navigate this? How do we live as deep-sea creatures in a world of water skimmers without suffocating from loneliness or burning out from the effort of pretending? We must begin by reframing your recoil from small talk not as a weakness, but as a protective mechanism for your limited energy resources. You must stop viewing your limited social battery as a defect and start viewing it as a budget. You have a finite amount of surface energy. Do not spend it all in the first 10 minutes of the night out of a sense of obligation. This leads us to a quiet rebellion known as the doorway effect. When you enter a social space, instead of drifting passively into the nearest conversation about the weather, set a conscious intention to break the script. You have the power to change the frequency of the room. It is terrifying, yes, but it is also the only way to breathe. When someone asks, "How are you?" do not say "fine." Say, "I've been thinking a lot about the concept of nostalgia lately," or "I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed by the noise of the city, to be honest." Watch what happens. Yes, some people will recoil. They will be confused. These are the water skimmers. Let them go. But others, the ones who are also suffocating, the ones who are also wearing the mask, will look at you with sudden, wide-eyed relief. You will see their shoulders drop. You will have offered them permission to be real. You are not just saving yourself. You are creating a pocket of oxygen in a vacuum. You must also embrace the concept of strategic solitude. In a world that equates being alone with being a loser, you must reclaim solitude as a nutrient. After a day of forced interaction, your brain requires a period of synaptic pruning and recovery that can only happen in silence. This is not hiding. This is not running away. This is the submarine returning to the dock to refuel. Do not apologize for leaving the party early. Do not apologize for needing a weekend where you speak to no one but the characters in a book. You are tending to the machinery of your mind. You are respecting the architecture of your soul. There is a Japanese aesthetic concept called yugen, which refers to a profound, mysterious sense of the beauty of the universe. The feeling of watching a flock of birds disappear behind a distant mountain. Your mind is tuned to yugen. You are tuned to the shadows, the implications, the deep currents. The world needs people who are willing to dive into the dark water. If we all stayed on the surface, we would never know what lies beneath. We would never have philosophy or poetry or the kind of art that makes you weep in a museum. We would only have the weather report. So, the next time you find yourself standing in that crowded room, clutching that warm glass of wine, feeling the familiar ache of disconnection, do not judge yourself. Do not force yourself to smile at the emptiness. Instead, look for the other person in the corner. Look for the one who is also staring out the window, watching the rain, looking for a pattern in the chaos. Go to them. Skip the introduction. Speak to the ghost in their eyes. You are not an alien. You are just a traveler from a deeper country, looking for a fellow citizen. And when you find them, you will realize that you were never actually tired of people. You were just tired of the noise that prevents you from hearing them. Would you like me to guide you through a deep talk framework to help you gracefully steer surface-level conversations into the meaningful depths where you thrive?